I could ask the neighbour for a bowl of sugar, but would that not make me an ungrateful, sinful, selfish, uncommitting, childlike parasite, leeching from a hard-working man to sustain my existence and having nothing to offer back but the blood that I have wilfully drawn and which drips from my lips, and my brow, and my eye? And he is a hard-working man, an honest, hard-working man, one who works hard like a dog every goddamn day of his life, to use his own very words, with only at the end of a hard day to soften and mould his edges made sharp by the harsh world beyond the apartment a beer, and a whiskey, and a rum. And he is a loving man. Once the liquids have flowed over and smoothened the rough edges of his day, they too flow over my rough edges and soften my eyes and smooth my skin and fill my lips. And my loving man can then have a beautiful woman to love and hug and kiss and correct. And so are the nights. But my days are my own, safely tucked away, living in luxury, away from everyone and anything dangerous. But how the safe days become maddening when left alone with your own darkened mind as your unfriendly friend. Wandering from one room to the next, expecting something to be different, expecting something. But it will only ever be the same rooms and the same unfriendly friend within them. But there's a window to look down below to the street, the busy, noisy street, filled with the tops of people's heads and their hats, and on rainy days their umbrellas. And I would sit often at the window and think how odd it is that nobody ever looks up. But if they did, I would turn away quickly, because if they see my face they would know my insides, and know I am hideous, and I am shameful, and I am nothing. But what if I'm not? What if the unfriendly friend is wrong? And if I were down there, walking on the street below, would I not just be another hat, just like everybody else? What if I don't walk from room to room and rather leave the unfriendly friend behind, lock her in here and let her leave me be? Yes, I'll do just that. I'll pack a bag right now. I can already feel it within the winding, turning, narrowing, dizzying corridors and dungeons and cellars of my mind, which have been dark black for so long, a candle lit. And for the first time in so long I could see a little around me instead of only feeling around in the dark, and I could see the corridors and the dungeons and the cellars. Oh, I wish I never did see them for what they really were, because they were more horrid than I had imagined. The walls were darker and more jagged, the dungeon steel bars more sickly with rust than they had felt when I pulled on them without seeing. The ceiling was decaying with a black mould, such that it fell in chunks to the rotting fungus-covered floors, where the decay and rot melted together in a putrefying stench of molten and diseased compost. The walls were of the same excessively large flint stone, only coloured in that some of the mould which clung to the whole of it, and within the gaps between the stones, was not black, but were a dark red. And when the candle was drawn closer to it so I may see my way better, the walls would curve and shriek in fear away like tissue paper, coming to life and at the same time dying once thrown into the fire. It was a place which hung of death, the only life being the malnourished rib-showing rats which scurried terrified away in front of me to the cobwebbed corners and into the walls and into the floors and into the ceilings each time I stepped forward. Not a spot of comfort could be found here, not a soft surface or a clean one or a warm one. It was cool and damp, dark in both its absence of light and its absence of joy. The flame on the candle was unsteady. A draught could render it smoke, so I walked carefully, watching it, like balancing an egg on a spoon, The light, while only illuminating as far as my arm can reach, was my torch and my beacon and my way out. I walked carefully, but also urgently, desperate not to be stuck down here forever. And then I see it, the Dungeon Street door, not far off. Suddenly, it swings open, the light from outside pours in and blinds me. Then it closes again, and it's just me and my candle and... "Honey, I'm home. What's with the bags? Where you think you off to then?" And my knight in shining armor walks over to me, smiles, leans in, and then just the way I did when I was a little girl making a wish and blowing out a birthday candle, he lovingly and gently and kindly, with a little puff, blew out mine.